146. Now, that's not just some random impressive stat to throw around. It's actually the exact number of games Karim Adeyemi played for Borussia Dortmund. So why does that matter for us today? Well, because that specific number serves as the perfect jumping-off point for our deep dive into the latest, highly calculated strategies that are completely dominating the summer 2026 transfer market. Strategic moves exploring the summer 2026 transfer window. Okay, let's dive straight into this explainer, because today we're unpacking a really fascinating dual narrative. We've got Barcelona's highly specific tactical reunions on one hand, and then Newcastle United's financially mandated youth movement on the other. First up, Barcelona's new attacker. So, Karim Adeyemi's past versus his future actually tells a pretty compelling story. During his time at Dortmund since 2022, he racked up those 146 appearances and scored 36 goals across all competitions. But here's the thing. This move to Barcelona isn't just your standard big money splash. It's a deeply calculated reunion with Hansi Flick, the exact same manager who famously handed Adeyemi his senior debut for the German national team. Plus, he becomes their second attack-minded signing of the window, linking up with fellow recent arrival Anthony Gordon. And you know, the financials behind this whole thing are just as interesting, mainly because of how clean they are. Barcelona is paying around 22 million euros, which is roughly 19 million pounds, plus add-ons. They've essentially locked him into a contract that runs all the way until 2031, and Dortmund made absolutely sure to include a sell-on clause in the package. So it's a relatively straightforward, tactical transfer. But as you'll see in a second, not every club has the luxury of operating quite this simply. Moving right along to our next section, Newcastle's youth strategy. 34 million pounds. I really want you to keep this figure in your head. This is the incoming cost for A.Admi Bamba, a 20-year-old midfielder flying in from Monaco. Now, he definitely brings some great experience for his age, with 25 senior appearances last season in France under-20 status, but his arrival actually signifies something much, much larger happening behind the scenes at the club. Now, what's really interesting about this is that an undeniable pattern is emerging under Eddie Howe. A.Admi Bamba is incredibly the fourth player aged 20 or under signed during this close season alone. It's wild. He joins 20-year-old goalkeeper Iwan Jeun, 20-year-old winger Bazoumana Touré, and 18-year-old midfielder Sean Stutter. Which brings us nicely to Section 3, balancing the books. See, Newcastle is currently operating under this incredibly strict regulated formula right now. It's kind of like Moneyball, right? But enforced by UEFA. Their new transfer policy dictates targeting players strictly aged 24 or under, costing broadly between 20 and 40 million pounds, and they absolutely must possess high resale potential. So why the strict parameters? Well, they're heavily maneuvering to stay on the right side of football's squad investment regulations, especially after recently negotiating a strict 3-year settlement for breaching European spending rules. And this strict criteria directly impacts their on-pitch strategy, basically creating a sort of midfield carousel. You've got Sandro Tonali heading out to Tottenham in a massive deal initially worth £92.5 million. And to fill that pretty significant void, in comes the youth investment, A.Admi Bamba. Because Bamba prefers operating in that number 6 role, he's seen as the direct tactical replacement for the departed Tonali. But hey, the midfield maneuvering isn't quite over yet. That leads us right into the Bruno Guimaraes standoff. Mikel Arteta and Arsenal are very, very keen to bring the Brazil midfielder to North London, and word is the player is open to the move. However, Newcastle's holding a firm line here. Their captain, who turns 29 later this year, is simply not for sale. On top of that, Arsenal actually hasn't submitted a formal offer yet. And honestly, Newcastle seems entirely unlikely to even sit down at the negotiating table for anything less than £75 million. Finally, our last section, honoring Kevin Keegan. Taking a step back from the transfer madness for a moment, we have to talk about the late, great Kevin Keegan. This is a legacy that completely transcends club rivalries. Between 1971 and 1977, Keegan made 323 appearances for Liverpool, really rising to prominence there before later becoming an absolute folk hero on Tyneside as both a player and a manager. Tragically, his passing was announced this past Monday at the age of 75. To honor his incredible memory, Newcastle and Liverpool are planning a joint tribute, fittingly scheduled right before Newcastle hosts Liverpool at St. James's Park for their opening Premier League fixture on August 23rd. The football community, as you'd expect, is wasting absolutely no time in showing their respects. There's going to be a minute's silence before Newcastle's friendly at Gateshead, and then during their trip to Bristol City, a really poignant tribute. We'll see Keegan's image displayed on the stadium screens, specifically in the 7th minute, directly honoring that famous shirt number he wore throughout his distinguished career. Plus, the club has already stated they'll consult with his family at the appropriate time to plan a permanent memorial. So, what does this all mean? The landscape of this beautiful game is literally constantly shifting, right? Both emotionally and strategically. We've seen Barcelona's highly targeted reunions, but the real suspense for me lies on Tyneside. With UEFA's regulations serving as a strict perimeter, Newcastle is being forced to innovate. Will this £40 million youth gamble actually pay off under UEFA's watchful eye? It's a bold, highly calculated strategy, and I, for one, absolutely cannot wait to watch how these formulas translate onto the pitch this season. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and as always, keep your eyes on the beautiful game.